Welcome, everyone, to episode 230 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Penteleresco. I write stuff in podcast 2. Today, my guest is Omair Hyder, apprentice to Robert Angus, which is part of the Octavia Book Binding. Octavia Book Binding is a store where you can go in, get your books repaired, fixed, even recustomized to some degree, and they are incredibly skilled at what they do. Whether you're fixing a Bible or whether you're fixing a book you love, this is definitely one of the places in town you should definitely check out. I remember this. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be dealing with the bookbinding industry, and particularly the Octavian Bookbinding Company. Omar is my first guest. On Thursday, we're going to have David Sidgwick, who runs the bookstore in there, and Robert Angus will be all next week. But the thing I remember most about this conversation in particular was Omar going to me, I don't have much to say. Turns out he's a really cool dude. Lots of cool things he's doing and lots of projects he's been a part of. And I definitely can't wait for you guys to listen to it. Trust me, it's going to be really cool. Beyond that, yeah, so right now I'm in deadline. I'm going to be in deadline hell until March. It looks like as this Siberian winter goes on. I got some corrections to do on my novel as many as I can before my partner in crime, my editor in crime, takes them off. So while I go do that, let's just go to the conversation, shall we? Turn the mine off. Okay. All right. So I turn this on. Anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Yeah, I wish I did.
You wish? Yeah, so it's okay. You have to compete. I had one interview with a 16-year-old pop singer. Hers was so good. Everybody else is kind of like, like the model is it's tough to beat. So how you doing today, man?
Good.
Good.
Yourself?
I've had wonderful conversations already, so it's been fun. So I'm going to ask, what's your name and what do you do?
Okay. My name is Omair Hyder. What do I do? That's kind of hard to explain because a lot of things at the same time. So just traditionally identifying that, this is what I do. What I do is I do a lot of things. That's what I do.
Okay. So you're a jack of all trades?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Oh, no, it's not a bad thing. I mean,
so now I want to get towards the mastery.
What do you want to master?
Everything that I do.
Everything that I do.
Yeah.
So I hate to break this to you. You're always going to be a jack of all trades, but in a good way.
Well,
yeah.
There's always there's always exceptions, so you never know.
Well,
and that's the thing about people like me.
Right.
We don't take that you can never X, Y, Z, A, B, C. We're like, yeah, we'll see.
Oh yeah, we will see. There's kind of like let's see how far we can go. I actually just think this on a personal note. It's just like what happens in life is you get X amount of skills to start with, whatever those skills are. And if you use them, then suddenly you're given more skills. Then you get to use those on top of what you've already got, then you get even more skills. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, it can, yeah.
Yeah. It's how it's worked for me. Like, I wanted just to write stories, and then I ended up doing interviews, and then I ended up learning how to publish. Then I ended up learning how to do design. Then I ended up, learning how to do audio. Then I ended up, and I've just kept learning and learning and learning. It just never. I think life by necessity is you never stop learning.
Exactly. So if I asked you, what do you do? You'd probably give me the same answer as I did.
I think today more than any other, I think almost everybody today has to be a Renaissance person. And what I mean by that is, Renaissance people were like Da Vinci was a Renaissance man. Da Vinci was a artist, but he also was a scientist and an inventor. And he was prolific in all those things he did. I think by necessity today, with the nature of how things are, we all have to be Renaissance men and women. We have to be not only learning new skills all the time because things keep adapting and changing, but also we must be prolific at them because there's just a lot of other people with, if not our skill set exactly, comparable skill sets. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. So what skill sets are you trying to master?
Well, there are actually like a couple of ways that I can actually summarize. So I'll rephrase my answer as to what do I do. I shouldn't use the word try, but I will in this case. It's like I try and create things. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. What skills is it that I am? So yeah, most of them just like kind of belong to maybe the eye candy side of things, or pushing boundaries, mostly on the visual side, like things you can see, things you can touch, and augment those with other senses. So yeah, that's what I do.
So could you give like a concrete example of that?
So what I, or the people that I work with, what they create is everything, and has been everything from eye candy in places where you don't expect it to be. So I started off doing photography and stuff like that, moved into layouts, moved into the visual world of like moving pictures from stills, went towards video, worked a lot in animation and interactive as a word. I ended up becoming a producer, and then a senior producer. During this time I was co-producing music, and a producer for commercials and animation series and all of those. And then it's like, what am I trying to do here? So back then I figured out the theme was, I'm trying to educate people. So what is it about? Is it about creation? I was like, no, it's not about creation. It's about education. And then it evolved again, because then I started working with public service messaging. From public service messaging, I went to the whole narrative-based documentaries and documentary series and all of those. And from there, I realized, no, you know what? The problem is deeper than that. So I actually went into education and started a couple of ventures that right now are being rolled into 1,500 primary schools, where kids are learning to read from that kind of material, and we're supporting that with telecom-based programs for teachers for remote areas where they don't have that. I mean, the United States has the same problem. I mean, if you're like in the urban areas, there's access, but as soon as you step out a couple of miles, the whole landscape changes. Everybody has a smartphone, but nobody can afford data.
Yes.
So, and there are no more phone lines. So there are computers, but then there's Wi-Fi, but then a lot of people can't afford them.
I live in the rural area of the United States. I've lived there. I can tell you that, it gets really, really funky what you have to do sometimes to get a signal. Even now, today, it's boggling on one hand.
It is mind-boggling. I'll give you like the most extreme example that I've come across. So in Palo Alto,
wow.
On one end is Stanford.
Yep.
And exactly a mile away is the East Palo Alto Phoenix Academy. And a lot of kids from the lower SES go there. I was there as a STEM mentor with a bunch of other people. 2016, middle school didn't have a science teacher because they couldn't afford one. Because that place, the rents are so high that teachers can't afford to live there. So like there are these two places. You look at Stanford, and then there's the East Palo Alto Phoenix Academy. And this is the same East Palo Alto that's famous for being the murder capital of the world.
Yeah.
Early 90s, late 80s. that's just, it's like less than a mile away.
Yeah, and it boggles the mind because like you can literally see the line. Like if you actually take that walk, you could literally see the line where it is. It's usually there's a combination of litter and then just looking at just the buildings, the shape, and the care. You're like, I step here, I'm in. Oh wow! And I step here, it's like, and it boggles you because it's just like the gap. It's not even. It's so extreme.
It is.
Yeah, it
insane.
just.
Yeah. So then I went to like education, and then I'm like, okay, what am I doing again? So yeah, sure, definitely it's about education, but it's about now back to creation. Where it's like, after doing, I guess, more complicated creations, like not only just like having programming and then making curriculum and then combining those two and then adding technology to it and like taking that to other places, I'm realizing, okay, there's got to be more. So I can code, design, edit, color correct, whatever, but is there anything else that I can do with my hands that does not require electronic-based technology? I mean, even a hammer is a technology, but traditional technology, not electronic technology, like glued to the screen. So yeah, that's why I came here, because like a bunch of like-minded people, they hate to call it a makerspace, but this is pretty much a makerspace.
Mm-hmm.
And they do everything here from CNC tooling to find books and restore old pretty things. I mean, it's a business of nostalgia on one side and creativity on the other side, and this is what this place is, and that's why it seems a little unstructured, but it's not.
No,
It's like a bunch of people working away day in, day out, and I'm volunteering here, and I mean that's one thing that I'm doing, and at the same time I'm volunteering to learn how to bake cookies and make cakes at a bakery. Like, I'm not kidding.
No, I'm actually grinning at this, right?
Yeah, because, you know, it came to a point where now I have a family. I was like, okay, so what am I going to teach my son again? How to type? Okay, that's not going to fly. So, like, the music that I never really picked up to learn from a technical point of view. So, that's next. I'm going to learn, you know, polish up whatever I learned earlier, because it's like, what am I passing on to the next generation? Because my son's very little. It's his first birthday in like 3 weeks, but I'm already panicking.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, I can't wait. So like one of the reasons I'm learning to bake a cake so that I bake that cake. I don't buy it from someone else.
No, that is actually that is not the reason I expected you to learn that. It's sweet though, like really. No, and don't I don't want you to feel like bad about that. It's actually a really cool reason to learn. I came to the conclusion about, I'd say, 6 years ago, that all creation is essentially the same. It doesn't matter what it is, right? The only real difference is whether or not it's what you're trying to say, which is very important, and what tools best convey that message. That's it. And beyond all that, everything else is, the how is almost unimportant. As long as
unimportant.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, it's like two rules of life: learn to do something. RTSM, read the freaking manual. Basically, learn your tool and learn your craft and read up on it. You know, read the freaking manual.
A lot of people don't do that.
No, it's like instant gratification. It's like, oh yeah, I can just press this button, I can have this effect. It's like, okay, so you know what the science is, or, you know, whatever.
Do you know how this works? No.
Yeah, and why would you do that? I mean, yeah, it does look cool, sure. But learn to do it. You might just like have other ideas. You might just innovate. I mean, you can't innovate. I mean, you can't break a rule until you know them. So know the rules. What was I saying there? I don't know.
No, we'll go back to baking cakes here for a second, because it was your son's birthday. So my theory was, because again, baking is very, like, especially cakes, like cookies. I'm not going to say they can't be intricate, because they really can be. But cakes are way more intricate than a cookie is.
It's a very precise field.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very precise field with no undo button.
No, you screw up, It's done. I nearly killed my dad. I'm going to go cook my cookies at my first time I made cookies. I nearly killed my dad. I'm only going to take half the blame for it, though. My first assignment way back in home ec was to make cookies. So I obviously when you first getting started, you get rusty. So I brought a guy that actually was a bit chef. It's like, okay, listen, I get confused on something. I'm going to say I'll ask you a question and we'll do it. Well, so. As you well know, there's a big difference between a teaspoon of baking soda and a tablespoon of baking soda. Very big difference. And I asked him, hey, listen, is this tablespoon or a teaspoon? Guess what he said? Tablespoon. Guess what happened by the time I threw it in, what it actually was? Teaspoon. My dad bought a Coke that night. Because it was dense. Now, his wife actually taught me how to bake. And banana breads, cake, like meringue pies, like cakes and stuff like that. Like I really appreciate, like you really appreciate, especially with baking, precision, because it's such an important part of what makes it work. Mm-hmm. It's also very fun.
Yeah, and it's I think it's a very good grounding place. Or like just making anything that requires patience. If you go through the motions, it's very grounding. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a common theme with people here. Like they're all just, you know, people are just like passionate about like making stuff.
I'm going to pin you down since you try all kinds of different things. What has been your favorite thing that you've made here?
Oh, here,
like just here.
Okay. So no, I haven't been here that long, so. I try and help out with like different things, but I guess the only thing that I like contributed in terms of like a product here is like a little bit of photography of like the product and stuff. But besides that, I'm here to learn, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still learning. So I'm shadowing, I'm looking, and
so you're a student reading the freaking manual.
Yeah.
You're reading the manual right now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Here. This is so humbling. It's such a difficult and intricate process, and no two different kinds of books are the same.
No.
So there's a lot to learn. And then there's materials. I mean, there's paper. There's faux leather. There's leather. So. Yeah,
that's really cool. Okay, then we'll go back to the baking stuff. Mm-hmm. So real quick here.
Mm-hmm. I'm a student there too. So.
No, I guess fine, but that's required. The best way to learn is to do, and especially there. So what has been the best thing you've made so far? Since you're trying to make a birthday cake for your son.
Oh yeah, so start on the trial runs because I'm trying to use everything as organic and naturally derived as possible. So we were just having a discussion yesterday on the ingredients and how to just like change the process a little bit because treated processed stuff works differently than like for example if you're going to substitute sugar with like a natural sweetener, it might not have the same caramelization or like that whole consistency might just change. Or if you're going to use agave as a syrup, that's going to change the consistency a little bit. So these are like questions that I'm asking to learn. The trainer and the owner, they're very knowledgeable, so they're pacing me and scaffolding my learning as.
So I'm going to ask this: what kind of cake did you want to make for your son?
Oh, the kind. So I was like looking at like a lot of pictures, and I saw these pictures where like you have like a 4-inch or 6-inch cake in front of a child, and that it's up to the baby to go in hands first or face first. So I saw all these pictures like, you know what? I'm gonna have my camera ready. If he decides to go in face first, yep. Nice. So yeah, something that it's big enough for him. So probably like his own cake is gonna be a 6-inch double stack.
Nice. What kind?
I want to put this one toy that he likes to chew on a lot. So I'm gonna put that one. So it's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to eat. And just go for it.
So are you hoping for the face plant then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. So let me ask this then. I noticed that there's a lot, for you there's a lot of common themes of everything you've done, and one of them is education. So where does that come from? Why the fascination? Like, was it something you stumbled into?
No, I've always been a trainer. I've trained like over 120 people in very niche
Take my glasses off so I can see.
places. Besides that, I was like just voluntarily tutoring when I was doing my undergrad, and not just that, I also ended up becoming like a grader and a TA while I was there. And just like the process of teaching reteaches you so much. So I guess I always had, so I understood the value of a good teacher because I'd come across a few. And that contrast, like a teacher who doesn't give a crap versus like a teacher who, just like bothers to like just stop and say hi. That one interaction can change your life. So from like thoughts like that to actually how to make something bite-sized and understandable, and then take it from repeated enough times or constructed enough times so that it goes from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. It actually becomes useful in the longer run. It's ideas and all of that, and just like seeing the gap. It just like made me realize, what am I doing? Fine, I've won awards, I've made eye candy, I've done this, I've done that, but what am I actually giving back? Because I went to public schools, and not here, in Southeast Asia, and they're not supposedly that great. But I did fairly well. I never had private schooling, except like at the graduate level and even the undergrad. But besides that, I came up with just like in a country of like 200 million people, smaller than the size of Texas. I went to government-run schools, and I came out okay. And I know all my friends came out okay, but not everyone has been that fortunate, because like, hey, these were still the better schools. So how do you fix that? How do you give back to society? And so like from like informational cartoons and interactive stuff, it went to public service messaging and documentary storytelling. So I mean, technically it's all about storytelling. The two things that I do, I try and tell a story, and I try and make things. And things that tell a story. So that's just like that weight on my shoulders. Like, what am I doing with my life? I mean, I'm in my 30s. You reach a point where like, okay, what am I doing? I need to give back, and I want to do something meaningful. You can create a lot of eye candy and do music videos and stuff like that. And then it's just like, been there, done that.
Yeah. Well,
hang out with the cool people, whatever, get invited to their parties, and you're like, that's not what I want to do. I want to create. I'm done with this. So then you move towards more meaningful things in terms of giving back. And then when you peel away the layers of the onion, you realize at the core, it's all about access and information and education. And you're like, yep, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and very noble. Like, honestly, when you get right down to it, I mean, that's really, access is the tool for anybody to become anything. And as long as you have access to information or the ability to, then at that point, the only real thing that a school would really need to teach you is how to critically think and use that information, which I know over here has become a lost art. I can't speak of what it was like where you were from, but I imagine that it was, when I was leaving school, it was, the critical thinking was slowly being diminished. I could still solve problems on my own, and I definitely can figure out how to solve problems on my own. But the tools that even my father had before me, they weren't the same. And part of it, some of that's technological, but some of that was just the way they were taught how to think and solve problems was eradicated, right? So I'm kind of curious, like is that where you focus on with your stuff? Is just that critical problem solving kind of stuff?
Basically. I mean, it's not about solving a math equation. It's actually knowing what it is that you're doing. It's about teaching how to fish versus like, giving them fish. Like, oh yeah, this is how you solve this problem. Why? What's the logic behind it? I think that is what should be. That's what arms. Knowledge how to like blend words in script-based languages, for example. That alphabet system is very complicated. Just a set is like between 38 and 55 letters in the entire alphabet set, and every letter changes shape depending on is it a beginning, middle, end, or by itself. So like even the smallest set that a reader has to kind of memorize and learn, figure out how it works within this whole blending system. You have like kids that drop out of school, so how do you fix that? Because nobody's worked on it, because the world is learning Roman English for a better future. It's not really taking care of the native language speakers, So they can't read and write in their own language. They can only speak it, but then they're trying to speak the other one that they can read and write, but they can't speak it. So, there's a need here, there's a need here. So I try to balance both of them.
Yep. The keyboard is why Roman English is such a big thing worldwide. It's no other reason. Unfortunately, if it had been a Sanskrit or another kind of language, everybody would be learning those languages right now. But that's just the way it worked out. What I guess I'm getting at is
it's very modular.
Yeah.
And that's why people just like even if you go to India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, 99% of the text messages that are sent back and forth are in Roman Hindi, Roman Bengali, Roman Urdu. So
because it's quicker.
It's quicker, and the keyboards only have ABC. And, they have the Roman alphabet. And it's only now that they have like the alternate keyboards, but even the most prolific users are still confused because no two sets are the same.
No, and also, so it's going to be interesting, like in about 10, 20 years, like what language is going to be like worldwide.
By far English is pretty much is and is going to be the biggest. Look at China. I think in another 5 to 10 years, it's going to be the largest English-speaking population on the planet.
Absolutely.
And India is probably going to surpass China in that regard sooner than that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So. Look at the French. I was fortunate enough to live there for a couple of years, and this was at the time when English was just not tolerated anywhere in Britain or anywhere. But then they allowed for the first time, I think it was like in the early 90s or some time, where they actually allowed an English word to be pasted on a billboard.
Not always one person.
And it was the glorious 4-letter word used with AIDS. So fuck AIDS. Yeah. Was the first thing that they allowed,
Of course.
And it was a public service message. They allowed English for that, and because they knew that word was cool and it was being used and it was accepted. I think it was mid-90s.
It applies to my theory of how to learn other languages, actually.
Oh yeah.
Which is always learn the swear words first.
Oh yeah. That's universal.
Yeah.
Anywhere. I want to know the.
Yeah, I want to learn swear words, and that's the first thing they'll teach you. Then they'll actually teach you how to actually talk.
Yeah.
Say that to the
or how that swear word is constructed.
Yeah, exactly. How do you do that? Oh, it's like this. Cool.
Yeah. So it's a long-winded answer to why education is. Hey, you have the same problems everywhere.
Yeah.
Access, better material, better curriculum, chunking, principles of getting it from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. That's the fascination.
I got one last question.
Sure.
It's early on. Okay, you said you've instructed. Why aren't you teaching now? I'm legit. This is.
Why am I not? Well, okay. So right now I've been busy raising a kid. So I'm actually more into a different kind of teaching. But what Rob and I are doing is, for example, speaking of book binderies, what we're doing is like we're working on a curriculum as a video series. It's like learn how to become a bookbinder, learn how to become or work towards a master bookbinder. So we're putting together that video series. Oh, strike that.
Okay.
Because it's a secret.
Well, I guess
it's a product that we're working on.
Yeah, it's a product. No. Yeah,
But then even it doesn't matter.
I'll clear it with him just to be safe.
It's okay. Yeah, please do. But then even if you like end up like talking about it, the way Rob does it is just so unique. So, it's an idea, but how do you do it? It's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's a master at that. So yeah, we're kind of like trying to reach a bigger audience with bookbinding. I mean, I think it's going to survive. Just like how film developing is coming back, and it will come back. Because I've been shooting film all my life. I think I got my first digital camera personal. I've used one professionally, but my personal digital camera I bought 4 months ago or 3 months ago, like a full frame Nikon. Why? Because I could not find anybody processing film in Calgary. Yep. I know there's this one guy who does it, but I was like, you know what? Okay, it's about time. Yeah. So now I have my film cameras and I have my digital as well. But like with my son, I'm switching back to film, just to take pictures of him because I just want to make a book for every
black, white, or color.
Okay, so I love black and white, but my Instagram is like half of black and white pictures, but there's charm in color.
Oh, absolutely.
No, yeah. There's charm in color.
You can tell different stories in film. Like depending on the color actually does play a big role in it. I'm a big comic book guy, and one of the things I really love about it is how you can use color to dictate a tone, a mood, a scene. Mm-hmm. Right now, black and white you can do the same thing, but the tools are slightly different. You're using light and shadow a lot more, which
you
is
have to paint with light. No,
yeah, exactly. And I think, or even the absence of light sometimes is actually very important because it's what's not there, what you can imagine, right? So, I find that they're both very, very valid, and I find that they're both interesting, but they tell their stories a little differently as a result. Yeah. So
color definitely puts a certain time stamp on it.
Yeah.
Because the usage of color every 5 years changes. So you definitely date your pictures with color. So I mean I think the ones that you wanna kind of want them to be timeless. I guess that's one of the reasons why I like go towards black and white. It's like, this is what I see. I want to see it like this forever. But as soon as I put color, it's a different story.
Yeah, very cool.
I mean, and just the strength of it. There was a time when everything desaturated was great. There was a time when sepia was back in, like these old pictures that turned yellow. It's like, it actually becomes
it's old is new again.
Yeah. So, but it's cyclical. So like stuff you want to see forever, you drain the color out.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. So, I guess we have an interview. Do you think we have an interview?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's your call.
It's okay. So, I think for this is your current, I guess. Do you have any like big personal projects that you're doing right now?
Oh, I'm working on a book. It's a comic strip. So I have this wonderful writer who works with children with special needs, so a special ed school, and she's been collecting these like tidbits, these little conversations and dialogues that she's been putting together for like 8-9 years. And so I read those and I was like, wow, these are phenomenal. And I just realized that the one thing that you can do, and I'm actually pretty excited about this, So basically, it's turning those into a comic strip. So because it's the same characters being repeated, and that same teacher, like herself, like she's in some of them, and
That's what my search profile.
so when you talk about like special education or special education school, people from the general track are scared. They don't know. They think they have random thoughts, and the media is like partly to blame, especially the older one. So I want to put faces to these stories because this is how I see education. Education is different tracks. There's the general track. Pretty much everybody fits into there because they have a different perception of time and development. Then there's those special schools that they have a different perception. Those kids have a different perception of time and development. So something if I went to a general ed school, somebody from that segment would be like, okay, just catch up already, because his or her mind works in a different time scale. And then there's a third one, which is special education, where they see time differently. So you'll have a 12-year-old who has a different perception of time and what is normal in terms of development, and his or her take on something is just so unique and just forces people to like actually, if they're actually listening, they'll be like, yeah, you know what? Technically, that's absolutely correct.
You're creating empathy.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's like I'm trying to put this whole narrative around it. That's like, hey, this is who these awesome. This is who these characters are, and go through them. So we're also leaving the age or like the grade, which is an indication of age sometimes. And because these are so funny, they're hilarious. Like, I mean, just their take on things is like sometimes they say the darndest things, and you're like, you know what? That's 100% accurate.
It's almost from the mouse to bait. It's almost magical, actually. If you eliminate the constraints that are built, sometimes constraints are good. Creativity. Sometimes having limitations forces creativity.
Constraints are a learning mechanism.
Yeah, but sometimes that freedom.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like having an innocence, but also it's clear.
It is. And the more interesting is no two kids there are unique, so it becomes a melting pot of different observation of time in a different way from different environments. Some of them can be toxic. Some of them can be very positive and very nurturing. So when you have these two come together and have a dialogue, just the frame of reference being so different just brings this new point of view or this new dialogue and then you realize how it kind of gives you like this idea of like how this world is evolving as well, and that's the kind of like narrative I want to put together, and I want to put these pictures in so that like everybody can read them and be like, oh my god, these are like freaking cool.
Yeah, exactly.
People.
Yeah.
And so
kind of like
that's one project that I'm working on. I'm really excited about.
So
I have found this illustrator based out of Toronto. She's amazing. Her artwork's amazing.
You might know who?
Annie Idris.
Okay, I'm not familiar with her, but that's cool.
She's just
that's cool though.
She's just an artist who just she's done quite a few murals and a few exhibitions. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So she's like, her style of like doing characters is just so amazing. I think she's like the perfect and I've introduced them. They're super excited. So now it's like I'm still being a producer, but I'm seeing content and then the visual content.
Is there
it together? I'm putting the narrative around it.
Is there a project name yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
When this will probably air, I'm going to say sometime in January. Mm-hmm. So if you come up with a name between now and then, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, it's for now. I think the project is kind of stems from like an older name that was stamped on the collection, which is still growing. It's called the Conversation Box.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like a box.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
that's very cool.
But yeah, really looking forward to like some of them are just like I like rack up every time I read them. You know, there's just such short interaction that you can actually have a 1 to 3 cell comic strip.
No, which would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how can people find you?
Mm-hmm.
How can people do that?
Ooh, wow. Well, I have a profile website, but
Twitter, Instagram.
oh yeah, well, not really. I mean, I'm only. So if you spell the name backwards, RIAMO. That's my username at Twitter. Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, not active in like feeding that feed because there's just so much to do outside.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like every now and then I'd like get back on it. It's like, oh, I should like.
You should say hi sometimes.
I should say hi sometimes. I have like a few followers, and you know.
You should talk about ice cream and Baileys. People like that, or baking your cakes.
Oh yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm like documenting all of it.
Yeah.
So like from the first thing that I did, like the tools that I'm using and everything. So I'm already annoying my trainers because there's like too many technical questions. It's like, how much should I knead the dough? Do you want there to be air? It's like, yeah, this is not bread making where you're like we're trying to like keep the air in there so that it's fluffy. And like in bread making, some breads you're like actually trying to knock the air out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So
kind of what you're going for. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like completely opposite. But I have these questions, and they're like, okay.
They're amused. They're like, okay, just shut up and do it.
I mean, they definitely, but they're like amused. They're like, oh, somebody actually asked this question, is concerned about how
absolutely
it should be.
Yeah, I know.
Because like, you know, the other problem that I have, I think Rob has it too. So this everybody who works here, we're all perfectionists. We don't give up till we're like, but yeah, you gotta learn where to go. But
progression, not perfection. Yeah, that's the kind of
I hope I always fight with.
Oh no! You want to fight, but again, progression, not perfection. You right?
Well, it's relative.
Yeah, it's relative. Fair enough. All right. So I'm just gonna say one thing. And that will do it for my conversation with Omair Hyder. Like I said, check out the Octavia Book Binding Company located in Calgary, off of 10th Street Southwest and 7th Avenue. You should definitely check a look there. It's a really, really, really cool place, and you should definitely check it out. And that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. So if you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. You can subscribe to the podcast either through Podomax, Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play. They are all available. I also have a YouTube archive. There are currently 113 episodes up there. You definitely should kind of miss into some really cool conversations I just got to add up there, including an old one with GMB Chamachuk. Definitely check that out. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, The Wandering God, available through MirrorWorldPublishing.com. Coming soon, Alice Zero. Beyond all that, guys, stay inspired. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you later on this week.
Josh.